Buckle in, sports fans. You're listening to The William Haynes Show. The program will be starting in just a couple of minutes, so grab your popcorn and get ready to enjoy the show. While you're waiting, make sure you're following us on social media at WHBC Stream and staying tuned to WHBCStream.com. We're so glad to have you today on the program, and we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line on Twitter or call the show 352-639-0036. And thanks again for tuning in.
HBC. Well, it is a good evening to you, and how you be? William Haynes here, you there, here on this Monday night, final night of August. It is the 31st at 10:37 with 52 seconds to go right along with it. Plenty of good news to talk about, the first and main of which is the Rays winning 5-3 in the Bronx over the New York Yankees. The Rays improved to 25-11 on the season, including, I believe, a season-high watermark, 14 games above 500. They have now extended their lead in the American League East to 4.5 games as they go for a series win in the final time that the Rays will face off against the Yankees in the regular season. And let's be honest, probably we hope that this is the last time we'll face the Yankees, period, because although the Yankees aren't looking too good right now with the injuries and the play and all that, definitely not a team that you want to meet in October no matter what. And the way things are going right now with the way the American League standings are set up, and we'll get to all that later in the show. I'm going to front load it, of course, talking tonight's win inning by inning. But the way the wild cards might be coming out of the American League Central with three really hot teams there, it might just be the first and second place teams in the AL East. And now I believe the Blue Jays are just a game or a game and a half or maybe even two back of the Yankees. And those two teams have yet to play each other. They will have 10 meetings in the month of September. So things could really go sideways for the Yankees, considering at one time they seemed like a lock to win the World Series. So again, lots of good news to talk about. Also, it's an intermission going into the second overtime. It is the Tampa Bay Lightning and Boston Bruins tied. The Lightning have Boston on the ropes with a 3-1 series lead. So a goal for the Tampa Bay Lightning would give them the series win, and they will play, if they do win, they will advance to play the winner of the Philadelphia Flyers and New York Islanders series in the Eastern Conference Final. And we'll get to that again all in the show. We also have a whole lot of MLB trade deadline stuff, and we'll also catch you up on this weekend's action. But first and foremost, because I know we have some people listening that want to hear what's going on in tonight's game, we're just going to talk about tonight's 5-3 win, inning by inning, and I just wanted to throw that out there as well for anyone that is tuned into the show at any time during the program. If you want to give us a call, we'll be on the air for about another hour or so. The number to call is 877-566-1020, internationally toll-free. You can also tweet us at WHBC Stream. We'll read your question on the air. All that, whatever you please. We're here for you, again, until probably about 11:30. But without further ado, it was certainly an interesting matchup. The third Tyler Glasnow v. Garrett Cole matchup of the season. Cole was coming off his first loss in seemingly forever. It was in a doubleheader in Atlanta Atlanta. He snapped his 20-game winning decision streak, or however you want to call it, and Cole ended up catching his second straight loss for really what seems like the first time in forever. I'm not even sure when the last time that happened. He just could only go 5 innings as the Rays really got to him early, and Glasnow had a no-hit bid going into the 5th inning and lost it. He ends up going 6 scoreless, just a walk and 2 hits, 87 pitches. So it kind of the Rays kind of ended up getting into the weeds, and Edgar Garcia kind of got him into some trouble at the end. And the way the Rays lined up, I'll give you the defensive alignment first. In the outfield, from left to right, it was Margot in left, Kiermaier in center, and Renfroe in right. From the infield, from left to right, it was Yandy Diaz playing third base. It was Joey Wendell starting at second, Ji-Man Choi at first, and Willie Damas at shortstop. Michael Perez caught. The DH was Randy Arozarena. And again, the pitcher was Tyler Glasnow. And the way that order lined up, it was Arozarena, the DH, leading off, which was kind of surprising. The righty Arozarena leading off versus a right-handed pitcher, Cole, but it ended up working out okay, followed by Lau and Diaz, cleaned up by Choi, followed by Damas and Wendell, and a bottom 3 that I really liked of Margot, Kiermaier, and Perez, although it was to a bit of mixed results. The main surprise was Arozarena in just his second game for the Rays leading off. I know that's his skill set. He's good with the bat and can be a terror on the base paths. He ended up stealing a base later in the contest. But with Austin Meadows, obviously the lefty bat, he was pretty much locked into this roster as the guy that would lead off against right-handed starters, and there were some talks maybe he could be injured, working through something. Mark Tompkin, who was covering the game in the Bronx tonight, said that he was on the field warming up and things like that. So if he does have an injury, it's pretty mild, or the Rays are just trying to keep him off his feet for a couple days. I don't believe he played yesterday either, but it ended up working out okay. Yandy Diaz with a right hamstring. They ended up taking him out of the game, but it's unknown if that's anything serious. We'll keep our eye on that, of course, as it progresses. And also, just now from Mark Tompkin on Twitter, it says, Kevin Cash said Ji-Man Choi came out of the game late due to stomach issues. He was a defensive replacement, but also came in for him in the 9th inning. I figured it was a defensive replacement, but again, Cash saying it's Choi with stomach issues, so unclear on what to make of that. I guess we'll just have to kind of follow along and see where that goes. And again, without further ado, I'll give you the phone number to call one more time. It is 877-566-1020 at WHBC Stream is the Twitter. Talking about this game, of course, in the first inning, the top of the first, the Rays jump on Garrett Cole early. The 2-out Rays continue. That's really been the theme of this offense, really, the whole year. It was Arozarena striking out looking, and it was really a bad at-bat. You can't blame him, though. I mean, his first game as a Ray yesterday was facing some pretty mediocre Marlins pitching, and he comes in today and faces Garrett Cole, the first batter in the lineup, and Cole is dotting the corners, at 97. It's understandable. It didn't work a good at-bat as you would want a leadoff hitter too, but it was okay. Lau flew out, so all of a sudden 2 outs, bases empty. Garrett Cole looked like, it was going to be another one of his signature starts. Then all of a sudden Yandy Diaz singles. He ends up getting to second base on an error charge to Clint Frazier, and that's something, I'm sure Yankees fans would be bellyache about this, but it seems like every time we play the Yankees and Clint Frazier isn't right, there's some kind of error where he can't pick the ball up out of the right field wall. And it was just the same tonight as it was Yandy singling. It was a ball that kind of rolled all the way down there to the right field corner, and Frazier stumbled with it a little bit, and good on Yandy Diaz for hustling and getting over to second base to get a runner in scoring position at the top of the first. And then it was Ji-Man Choi, the Garrett Cole killer, if you will, 360-foot home run to right that made it 2-0 Rays. It went into the short porch, but funny enough, as Rays fans often complain about the short porch and right for the Yankees, how, it would have been a home run in the Trop. That one would have been a home run in Tropicana Field. Just seems kind of ironic there, but it's a 2-0 Rays lead in the first inning. Then Adames doubles down the left field line and put another runner in scoring position, but then Wendell lined out to end the threat. But again, at the end of, or going into the bottom of the first, the Rays already had a 2-0 lead, and that's something certainly is a part of the formula really for the Rays' success, even dating back to last year. They were so good because if the offense, with Tommy Pham and those kind of guys to the top of the order could get on base and do their thing, and then have all the good starters and bullpen, it's like the opposing team is fighting an uphill battle from the get-go against a pitching staff that's really good. The pitching staff right now, not as much, but hopefully we'll have some guys coming back. Nick Anderson maybe during the next homestand. Jose Alvarado's still a ways away, and then optimism about Oliver Drake and some of those guys coming back. So hopefully on the way, but right now the bullpen not too great. But again, going to the bottom of the first, Tyler Glasnow makes it look easy, gets DJ LeMahieu, Voit, and Ford all out, and some of those guys Glasnow has really struggled with his last couple times out against the Yankees, so it was good to see. I mean, Glasnow is really on a tear his last 3 starts. We go to the top of the second inning. Kiermaier makes it 3-0 with 1 out. Kevin Kiermaier comes up to the plate, launches a 411-foot home run to right field into the second deck. So that one not into the short porch, an absolute blast off of Garrett Cole. And as good as I guess Garrett Cole has seemingly been for the Yankees this year, I believe that was his 12th home run allowed, which leads all major league pitchers. So really, $30 million a year that they're paying him over the next 12 years or so. Obviously not this year because of the prorated salary, but you could see maybe the Yankees fans a little bit nervous up there about the contract that they gave Garrett Cole, because he certainly did not play very well tonight, took the loss. He's now 4-2 in his second consecutive loss after snapping that streak. Too bad the Rays couldn't snap it, but either way, I guess it's good to see considering how Cole terrorized the Rays in that ALDS a season ago, going 7 2/3, I believe, in his first start in 8 innings, the second time out, really unstoppable. So I guess the Rays really have taken that personally, that they want to destroy Garrett Cole each and every time that they face him. So good on the Rays for doing that. After that Kiermaier home run, Perez walked, so maybe you think it continues, but then Arozarena and Brandon Lau struck out, and Brandon Lau is not doing too well. I know he had that game-tying homer a few days ago, but I mean, even since then, his average is down to 273. He went 0 for 4 with a walk and a strikeout tonight, so you have to keep batting him in the top of the order because he's that kind of player for you. But it's just kind of unfortunate to see this kind of slump that he's in, but hopefully he can get it turned around. So at the end of, or going into the bottom of the second, it was 3-0 Rays. And in the bottom of that inning, Glasnow gets Frazier, Urshela, and Tauchman to go down in order. So all of a sudden, 6 up and 6 down for Glasnow, and he looks like he's poised for a really good start. Top of the third, the Rays get men on first and second with no outs and leave them there. Yandy with a leadoff single. Choi followed that with a single of his own. Adames then strikes out. He looked a little bit antsy, as he tends to do with men on base. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but he seems to get, again, a little antsy up there with men on base. So that was the first out. And then Wendell, who, a 10-game hitting streak, he did not continue that tonight as he went 0 for 4 with the strikeout, but he came into it with a 10-game hitting streak. He struck out, and then Margot flew out. So again, men at first and second with nobody out, and they leave them there, although they did have a 3-0 lead. But again, the 5-3 win, there was a lot of meat left on the bone, let's just say that. Bottom of the third inning, Tyler Glasnow allows a base runner, but that's it. Gets through 3 innings pitched, throwing only 34 pitches. Gary Sanchez flies out. Mercer flies out. Gardner does walk for the first base runner again to break the potential perfect game, and then gets DJ LeMahieu, of course, to strike out after that. It was really nice to see, especially how Tyler Glasnow looked against the top of the order, and LeMahieu, Voit, and Ford got him down all with relative ease, and those were the best hitters that the Yankees really have to offer right now, of course, with Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton being on the injured list for at least the foreseeable future, and that's certainly a concern for the Yankees. They were not too active at the trade deadline. I don't think really acquiring anybody. So I guess they're fine with who they've got, but they may be in some trouble as far as the playoff picture is concerned. We're coming down the stretch, just final month of the season here. We go to the top of the fourth. Garrett Cole puts a couple of men on base, but Rays can only spit on it, meaning that they couldn't take advantage. Kevin Kiermaier works a leadoff walk. Michael Press strikes out. Arozarena works a walk of his own, getting on base for the first time of the day. And then Brandon Lau flies out, and Yandy Diaz grounds out. So they leave a couple of men there once again, including one in scoring position. And now while I'm on that, in that category, they were 3 for 14 with runners in scoring position, so still really not good in that department. And they left a total of 13 men on base, which really, I mean, the runners in scoring position is kind of the theme that it's easy to talk about, but men left on base, I mean, that stat looks even worse when you leave 13 men on the base path. I mean, I don't know about on-base percentage, but the Rays seem like they have more base runners than just about any team that they face, because that's really all the baseball I watch. I mean, they've got men on base in seemingly every inning, but they're not so great all the time at moving them over, and I guess that's maybe the one concern you would have as you kind of try and nitpick this team. But with the best record in the American League and one of the best really in the majors, there's not much to say bad about them right now, especially with all the injuries that they're having to work through right now. We go to the bottom of the fourth. It was Tyler Glasnow with another shutdown inning. Gets Voit to strike out, Ford to ground out, and Frazier to strike out. So he's racking up the strikeouts as well. Got through 4 no-hit innings. Top of the fifth, the Rays blow another bases-loaded situation. G-Man Choi works a leadoff walking. That was Garrett Cole's fourth, which was a season high for him. That was all he would walk, and the start was 4. So definitely did not look good. Did not have his best stuff. Absolutely. Adames singles, so it's man at first and second. Wendell gets hit by a pitch. It was pretty nasty slider that got him on the foot pretty good, but he looked to be okay. And then Margot hits an RBI single, and there was some confusion. I guess they were trying to wave Adames home, Rodney Linares did, and then put up a late stop sign. So Wendell got a little bit confused and tried to go for third because he thought third base would be open. And the throw came into second instead of to home, so Wendell was kind of caught in a rundown. So he gets thrown out, basically tagged out, I guess, coming back to second. So he's out on the base path, but they did drive in a run to make it. It would have been 4-0 at the time. Kevin Kiermaier strikes out, and again, this was runners, I believe, at the corners. Or no, Margot was able to scoot up to second base. So it was runners at second and third, so a base hit would score another 2. So Kiermaier strikes out, and Perez flies out. So again, the Rays really not have been good in bases-loaded situations. They hit their first grand slam of the year yesterday, Willie Adames, where Corey Dickerson almost caught it. And I tweeted at Dave Wills and Andy Freed, who do the radio call on 620 WDAE, and they were kind enough. What they'll do, if you tweet them and it's a decent enough thought, they'll kind of read it on the air, or if you have a question, they'll kind of address it. I just made a comment basically about how they performed with the bases loaded, and they got their guy to pull up the stats. The Rays this year, with the bases loaded, are hitting with a 241 average, which is good for 20th in the MLB, so basically bottom 10 in the majors as far as bases loaded goes. And, I mean, you dig a little bit further than that, just seemingly as far as the eye test goes, it seems like every time they get bases loaded with 1 out or nobody out, they scratch out a run, and that's it. It's usually a sac fly to get the man from third tonight. They got Wendell in a bit of a pickle, and then the next 2 guys couldn't do anything with it. I get that it was Kiermaier and Perez, the 8 and 9 hitters, but it was really a shame, and thankfully they won, and if they lost, the 3 for 14 with runners in scoring position and the 13 men left on base certainly would have been probably what you point to, if not kind of how the bullpen melted down a little bit. So they leave the bases loaded again in the... Where am I? I lost it already. What is happening? So they leave the bases loaded in the top of the fifth. Bottom fifth, Glasnow gets through 5 no-hit innings. Yandy Diaz comes out with the right hammy injury. Again, no update on that. So these are the defensive substitutions they made. So Yandy comes out at third. Wendell moves over from second to play third. Lau comes in from right to play second base. And then they put Renfroe in to play right field. So Urshela lines out. Tauchman strikes out, gets to second base on a wild pitch. So it was really crazy. It was a breaking ball that really broke, and Tauchman swung at it for strike 3. But it got all the way back to the wall, and Michael Perez with a throw off base to first. And it allows Tauchman to scoot up to second. So all of a sudden they get a runner in scoring position, although Glasnow had not yet allowed a hit. But he gets Sanchez to strike out and Mercer to ground out. So again, caps a 5th consecutive no-hit inning. Top of the 6th inning we go. It was the Rays getting on the other side of the slam. Garrett Cole comes out already. Nick Nelson in. So Garrett Cole again gets the loss. He finishes 5 innings pitched, 4 earned runs on 8 hits, walks 4. So a total of 12. If you add the hit by pitch, 13 base runners, strikes out 7, gives up 2 home runs in the first couple of innings, 103 pitches, and his ERA is now just under 4. So Garrett Cole not looking so hot, and the Yankees team that needs good starts. Again, James Paxton, I believe, is still out. Jordan Montgomery is not quite as advertised this year. Obviously, J. Happ is not doing so great. And Masahiro Tanaka has not been so great either. So the Yankees are really in all facets. What I guess people thought would be strengths going into the season really have not been so. The bullpen has had injuries. Of course, Chapman really hasn't been himself since coming back from the COVID stuff. And then obviously the lineup with the injuries and stuff hasn't been great either. I mean, this is a team right now, a Yankees team at 19-14 that is just 5 games above 500 compared to the Rays, who are 14 games up. So you really see the tale of 2 different teams for sure. And just something that I wanted to throw out there. I was thinking about it a little bit today. I mean, obviously with the 60-game season, it's a little bit different. But going into September, I mean, August 31st, where the Rays are up, a handful of games on the Yankees in the Bronx, they sell out every game anyway. But could you imagine how raucous that New York Yankees crowd would have been in Yankee Stadium tonight? It really would have been a kind of a cool thing to see, and I think it is kind of a shame. There's nothing you can do about it. It's good that they're just getting the games in, but imagine what this game would have been like with fans, and hopefully the Rays can kind of continue this thing. They give you no reason to think that they won't be as good next year, so hopefully if fans are back in the stands and it's a regular 162-game season, we can get some more of these matchups late in the season. But man, that would have been a crazy... I think it might have helped the Rays because Yankee Stadium has been kind of a bugaboo for them. I don't know if it's the New York pressure. It's not often you play with 45,000 fans jeering at you. So maybe the empty stadium has helped. They're 4-0 in Yankee Stadium this year, and they've only got 2 more games against the Yanks in the regular season, which I guess is a good sign. But they're 7-1 now against them, so have been quite dominant nevertheless. But I've gotten ahead of myself a little bit. Again, Garrett Cole comes out, Nick Nelson in. In fact, the Nick Nelson that threw 3 perfect or 3 scoreless innings, I believe, against the Rays his last time out. Arozarena gets hit a leadoff single, his first hit as a Ray, and ends up picking up a stolen base on that as well. So you like what you see there. Brandon Lau lines out, Renfroe strikes out, and then Choi hits an RBI single. So it was a good thing Arozarena could steal second base. That made it 5-0 Rays, again getting them to the other side of the slam. A 2-possession game, if you will. Adames hits a single, so then it's men on first and second, but Wendell flies out. Wendell, again, not a great game for him, 0 for 4, no walks and a strikeout, so did not get on base at all. But obviously, if Yandy Diaz is going to be missing some time, it will probably be Joey Wendell that would get the main spot at third base, if not maybe some Mike Brasso action over there as well. It seems like maybe the Yandy Diaz experiment at first is over because we haven't really seen that this year, but maybe that's just because they have a right-handed first baseman in Mike Brasso, it seems like, as he did that in the minors, and now for the first time in 2020 he's playing first base. So yeah, they made it 5-0 in the 6th. Bottom of that inning, Tyler Glasnow's no-hitter was broken up. The Yankees leave 2 men in scoring position. The first play of the inning, it was Brent Gardner almost ran out a single on a 3-2 count. It was a really exciting play. Brandon Lau, who was in the shift, between first and second base, he makes a diving play, gets up quick, and throws it to first just in time. And I put a stamp on it in my scorebook because it seems like every time I watch a documentary, a video about a no-hitter, they always talk about that one, extraordinary defensive play, and they all have one where it probably should be a hit, but the defense comes up big because they know the situation, and they make a very A++ play, if you will. And Brandon Lau certainly did so. And then in the very next play, DJ LeMahieu hits a ground ball that really is a base hit ball. And then it was a really close play by Adames, a diving stop again, gets up immediately, whips it to first, and nearly beats him out. But he was called out, and then they review it, and DJ LeMahieu was then ruled safe. So that broke up the no-hitter. He got through 5+ innings, basically no-hit ball. And then it all kind of unraveled a bit from there. Couldn't get the efficiency that he had. He was averaging about 10 or 11, 12 pitches per inning, which is really good pacing. He went 7 innings out his last time, so he would know from that. Only ended up throwing 87 pitches tonight, which to me was a bit curious, but we'll talk about that, I guess, when we get to the bullpen, because it's certainly kind of the way that shook out. So the no-hitter's broken up. It's a man on first. Voit gets on base via a fielder's choice. It could have been a double play, but they get the lead runner, LeMahieu, at second. Ford makes it second and third with 2 outs, so he gets on, and then Frazier strikes out. So they leave a couple of men in scoring position, and if a base hit there would have made the difference in a 2-run loss for the Yankees. Top of the 7th inning, the Yankees reliever makes his debut, gets a 1-2-3 inning. His name is Miguel Yajuri, And I thought, I didn't know what to think of him. He's a 22-year-old right-hander from Venezuela, and boy, did he look good. He threw 3 scoreless innings, walked 3, but didn't give up any hits. And that was what I marked down when Garrett Cole came out after only 5 innings pitched. That's really a big goal in the first game of his series against the team. If you can knock out the starter early and force them to use their bullpen, preferably their A bullpen or somewhat close to it, it'll set up nicely for the rest of the series because, they're kind of on their heels from that point. But then Yehuri came in and gave him 3 innings. And obviously, he's not really a part of that Yankees bullpen that you would imagine. The Chad Greens and Adam Ottavinos, and I believe Zach Britton has now come off the injured list as well. But we didn't see any of those guys tonight. Just an inning from Nick Nelson and 3 from Yehuri. And boy, was he good tonight in his Major League debut as well. And also the first Major League player ever to wear number 89, which I just thought was a little bit interesting. He gets Margot to fly out, Kevin Kiermaier to ground out, and Michael Perez to fly out for an easy 1-2-3 inning facing the bottom of the order. The 7-8-9 hitters can't script it any better than that, but he did pretty well against the top as well. Bottom of the 7th inning, Edgar Garcia works the 7th. Glasnow comes out, Garcia in. A questionable move, at least in my eyes, but you get it. Glasnow ends up getting the win, so that's good. 6 innings pitched, no earned runs on just 2 hits. Walks a man, strikes out 9. 87 pitches, 55 were for strikes. And boy, this just seems like it keeps continuing. Glasnow faces 22 batters, throws a first pitch strike to none of the 22, which is absolutely absurd. And the fact that he had a no-hitter working is pretty through 5 innings. That is absurd. That just shows you how good his stuff is. The breaking ball, the curve that he's got is absolutely fantastic right now. The fastball is working, and then he's mixing up a changeup into there as well, which is really absurd. By the way, I just wanted to point this out. We have it on the monitor. Halfway through second overtime, the Tampa Bay Lightning and Boston Bruins are still tied at 2. There was a play in front of the net. It was a good defense by the Lightning. Was Miguel Sergachev putting his stick out on Nordstrom right in front of the net. So they keep it there. Again, the Lightning with a 3-1 series lead. So they're trying to wrap up this series. They'll play the winner of the Islanders and Flyers series. But again, back to baseball. Glasnow comes out. Edgar Garcia in. It was at that point a 5-0 game, so you don't think much of it. You don't want to use the A bullpen. You want them for the rest of the series. I was supportive of that move, but then he comes in and immediately gives up on a full count a home run to Gio Urshela. Just a slider that didn't really break. Again, that was his plus pitch. His 92-mile-an-hour fastball that doesn't move is not a good pitch, but he has a good 87-mile-an-hour slider, especially that runs away from righties. That's a plus pitch, you would think, but it just that particular one did not break, and it was Gio Urshela making a pay to make it 5-1 Rays. Tauchman flies out, Sanchez flies out, he walks Mercer, and then gets Gardner to fly out. So no real harm done. It was 5-1, still a grand slam lead for the Rays. Then we go to the top of the 8th. Adames leaves some men on base. It was a Rosarena to fly out. Brandon Lau works a walk. Gets the second on a wild pitch, so another runner in scoring position. Hunter Renfroe flies out. Choi walks to put a couple of men on. And then Adames, again, getting a little antsy with men on base, strikes out to end the inning. And it was a 5-1 game still going into the bottom of that inning. Edgar Garcia made a bit of a mess, but Peter Fairbanks came in to clean it up. It was DJ LeMahieu working a leadoff single. And again, Edgar Garcia, they bring on to start a second inning. As you know, even during the LeMahieu at bat, I saw Kevin Cash standing on the second the first step of the dugout, ready to kind of come out, a batter by batter basis, if you will. I don't get the logic. Didn't really think Edgar Garcia was stretched out to go, more than an inning. I'm not sure how many pitches he threw. I know he finished with 30. And again, you're asking him to face the 1-2-3 hitters in LeMahieu, Voit, and Ford. But that's really the thing with Kevin Cash. You either love it or you hate it, and it really works out more times than not. But it's this, and the way that they work the roster and bring guys in, Kevin Cash will always give players chances, and he'll give you a lot of them, including in big spots, to see what you have. There's a reason why they bring in a guy like Edgar Garcia, not just because they got him for cheap and they needed an arm, but they liked his stuff. They thought the slider could work, and maybe he could get by with that fastball that he had. They preach, just trusting your stuff. And that's another thing too. Putting him out there against the 1-2-3 hitters, in a 4-run game, you're showing some confidence in him, and you hope that can help him and it'll move forward. It's a long season. It's just 60 games this year, but you don't necessarily just play for tonight. You play for the rest of the year, and you want to. You want Edgar Garcia to know that you have faith in him, so they put him out for that second inning, and then can't get a single out. LeMahieu singles on a cue shot off the bat, kind of caught a tough break there, and then Voit with a 2-run homer. That's what you're afraid of. 392 feet to left that made it 5-3, and all of a sudden, this is not just a game where you roll in the B bullpen in garbage time. This is a real save situation, a 2-run game, and really the most crucial series of the season to date to really put some distance between yourselves and the Yankees. Not necessarily for playoff positioning. I think the ESPN model has the Rays like a 99.9% chance to make the playoffs. They'd have to lose dang near every game the rest of the way to not qualify with the way the playoffs are set up this year. But there's so much value in booting the Yankees out of the playoffs if you can, and if you beat them every time you face them, you give yourself the best possible chance to do that. So really a crucial series for the Rays, because obviously in October, I guess it's a bit controversial, but I would say I would rather face the Blue Jays than the Yankees. So that made it a 5-3 game. Edgar Garcia comes out at that point. Fairbanks in. Garcia finishes with the inning plus 3 earned runs on 3 hits, also walked a man, 2 home runs, 30 pitches, 16 for strikes. His ERA is now above 10, just under 11, and 7 batters he faced. He threw a first pitch strike to none of them, and really none of the Rays pitchers tonight were good at that, so make of that what you will. But Fairbanks comes in with nobody out and no men on base, so a chance for him really to do his thing. He gets Ford to line out, and then Frazier singles to put a man on. Urshela strikes out, but Frazier steals a base on that play, so they get a man in scoring position, and then Tauchman flies out to end the threat. So good on Fairbanks. He records a hold in just an inning pitched. No runs, obviously, on 1 hit. Also a strikeout. 9 pitches, 7 of which were for strikes. He's got an ERA right now under 3, so you like what he did tonight. Right now, he's part of your A bullpen with, how many guys are out. Ryan Thompson now has been, I guess, boosted into that conversation as well. When you look at the stats, I think he's inherited. Ryan Thompson has 7 or 8 base runners, and none of them have been allowed to come around to score. So that's an interesting stat for sure. I just want to throw that out there. So, again, Fairbanks works a nice inning to get you through 8. So then it's, I guess, up to, they went with Castillo tonight to get the save. Top of the ninth, the Rays can't get any insurance runs. Wendell flew out. Margot flew out. Kevin Kiermaier worked a walk, and Michael Press struck out. Not a good game for Mike. He works a walk, but goes 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. His average is now down to 170. No insurance. It's a 5-3 game. The Rays need 3 outs, and then you bring on Diego Castillo, which is really unfortunate. I guess that's the trickle-down effect. I think they were going to use Fairbanks either way, but if Edgar Garcia makes that mess and you have to go to the 8 bullpen, now you would assume maybe he'll pitch in all 3, but I doubt it. Now you're probably talking Diego Castillo in just 2 of these 3 games. And right now, Castillo is your highest leverage reliever. In a save situation in the 9th against the top of the order, if Castillo's not available, who are you going to? Probably Pete Fairbanks or maybe Ryan Thompson. Certainly not Aaron Loop with what he's given you. Again, maybe a mix and match as far as the righties or lefties go, but you get the idea. But Castillo came on and he did his job, and that was good. He threw 17 pitches, which isn't great. But again, he gets the save, which is really what matters. Gary Sanchez almost gets hit by a pitch, almost nicks the jersey on the first pitch, but they rule it's not a hit by pitch, which really the Rays caught a break there. It was, by the hair of his chin. And ultimately in that bat, he grounds out for the first out. Aaron Hicks pinch hits for Mercer. He hits a single against the shift to put a man on. Gardner strikes out, and then it was DJ LeMahieu, I believe, flying out to end the game. So Castillo gets his 3rd save in a row. I believe 3 appearances, 3 straight saves, as he has now taken over that role while Nick Anderson is out. I believe they've been saying Nick Anderson is going to be probably available for the next homestand, which I believe is after this series. Let me just make for sure. They'll be home against Miami September 4th through the 6th. And it'll be Fleming, Snell, and Glass now, so that's good. And another comment I just wanted to make as far as the bullpen is concerned, trying to save your A guys. Tomorrow, it's unknown v. Tanaka, undecided. I would imagine, again, it would be Trevor Richards or Trevor Richards behind, an opener, Aaron Slegers, maybe tandem start. I believe Aaron Slegers had 4 perfect innings in the Bronx on that day game, that last time out. They're going up against Tanaka, which you like. And then on Wednesday, it's Morton, his first start back v. Jordan Montgomery, but I would only imagine Morton is probably not going to give you more than 3 innings. So you're going to need, a bullpen in there as well. So it's unfortunate how that worked out. Obviously, you'd rather have those kind of things against the Marlins. Of course, they'll have Fleming, Snell, and Glasnow going up against the Marlins. That's probably a sweep if I've ever seen one on paper, but we'll have to go from there. So again, 2 games upcoming, 1 tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Again, we'll be on the air after that, as we always are. Just some takeaways as well. Again, talking tonight's Rays win over the Yankees by a score of 5-3. A great game, of course. Some takeaways I had: the Rays set the tone early, as I mentioned. It's so crucial for them to get a lead early. Garrett Cole's pitch count, the Rays worked good at bats. He threw in 41 after 2, 80 after 4, and they get him out after 5 innings, which was crucial, I thought, as far as getting them to use their bullpen and things like that. But it didn't necessarily work out. But you win, and you give Garrett Cole the loss, so that's really good news. The Rays put a lot of balls in play, which is good. They only struck out 10 times, which I guess that's good for 9 innings of baseball. But they put a lot of balls in play. They ended up finishing with 11 hits and 7 walks. So they put 18, I think, with a hit by pitch, probably 19 base runners. So that's very good. Again, putting the ball in play is crucial. The Rays struggle with bases loaded. Again, they're with the bases juiced. They are batting .241, which is good for 20th in the MLB. So they're basically a bottom 10 team with the bases loaded. Yandy Diaz injury, the right hamstring. I'm not too concerned. Obviously, right now you'd rather have position players go down than pitchers because of the depth that they have. As far as that goes, they haven't really had to deal with any position player injuries. I think they're just fine as far as third base goes. Obviously, you're going to miss his bat and the way he works, ABs, taking the walks and things like that. He sees a lot of pitches per at-bat, which is a crucial stat. But, Wendell, at that point, you go to a true platoon probably at third base with Wendell playing third against righties and Brasso playing third against lefties, you would probably imagine. And then Edgar Garcia goes for 2. And can't get it, obviously. From there, gave up that 2-run homer to make it a 2-run game. I mean, I guess he's going to finish the season with the team. You would guess. They DFA'd Anthony Bonda today and traded him to the Giants for cash consideration. So you think he has a part of this bullpen, but probably just in mop-up duty. An ERA of almost 11. The fastball is not good. It's not a good pitch that can get major leaguers out, and the slider is just not consistent enough. And a lot of big leaguers will spit at that pitch. And by the way, I had my eyes completely off the monitor. I probably should have been taking a closer look. It was the Tampa Bay Lightning over the Boston Bruins. It was I'll try and find who got the goal, but it was I just see on the monitor all the players mobbing each other. So that was pretty cool to see. They advance in double overtime, send the Bruins home, which is always such a great sight to see with the way they do things. Of course, it was Patrick Maroon getting his first goal of the playoffs, and also in the second period, Andre Palat, his 5th goal of the playoffs. He has been a crucial part of the Lightning winning that series. So again, the Lightning advance. They win the series in just 5 games, which is good to see them dismantle again the President's Trophy Cup winners in the NHL typically do not do good in the postseason, as Lightning fans know all too well. Andre Palat, by the way, again with a 4-game goal streak, and now they're saying it was Victor Hedman with the game-winning goal. So I don't know. Maybe someone's lying to me. I don't know. But again, good for the Lightning. They'll play the winners of the New York Islanders and Philadelphia Flyers series. I would certainly rather see the Flyers, even though they're the 1 seed. The Islanders have just looked so darn good. Game 5 is tomorrow. The Islanders lead that series 3-1. So you think, barring anything unforeseen, it'll be the Islanders playing the Lightning in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then, obviously we'll go from there. But shifting back over, of course, to the baseball, I'm not sure where Edgar Garcia's future on this team lies. Again, probably just mop-up duty. This was his test, and he failed. It was the same thing with Bonda yesterday, and they ended up moving on. So I think that was a big takeaway. And again, with the way the bullpen, not necessarily taxed. You only had to get through 3 innings, which was good. And obviously you have some other guys, Ryan Thompson, Ryan Sheriff, obviously Cody Reed, a guy that they just acquired, will probably play tomorrow. So they've got guys, and we'll preview that when we talk tomorrow's game. But now at 11:15, as I've gone on for nearly 40 minutes, if you can even believe that, how absurd, we're going to take a short break. If we have anyone listening to the program, not only do I thank you for doing so, but I wanted to let you know that you can call the program at 877-566-1020 for about another 20 minutes or so. Who knows, we may be on the air longer than that. I have so much to talk about. 2020 sports update. We're going to give you the baseball scores. There's been a lot of MLB action going tonight on trade deadline day. We'll tell you all about that again when we come back. Number to call, 877-566-1020. HBC 2020 Sports. A few games in MLB action that have gone final, the first of which is the Brewers 6-5 over the Pirates, the Braves 6-3 over the Red Sox after going not all in at the trade deadline, the Phillies 8-6 over the Nationals, obviously the Rays 5-3 over the Yankees, Cardinals 7, Reds 5 as the Cardinals get back to 500, the Mariners 2-1 over the Angels in 11 innings, it was the Orioles 4-3 over the Blue Jays, the Marlins 5-3 over the Mets. Jacob deGrom loses his first start of the season. Current action, just a couple of games in the top of the ninth. It is the Royals up 2-1 on the Indians. In the eighth, it is the White Sox and Twins tied at 5. And in the sixth inning, it is the Padres 5, Rockies nothing.
Hey, sports fans. William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBCStream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCStream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 11:18, we are back on the William Haynes Show. Final 20 minutes or so of the program. If we have anybody listening and you would like to call in, you can do so at 877-566-1020. Just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping as we were not on the air on Saturday or Sunday, so I just wanted to give some of my takeaways from those two Rays wins as they got a 3-game sweep in Miami. Just again, glossing over the Friday win, we were on the air that night, but it was Ryan Yarbrough getting through 6 2/3, and he came out with the hamstring injury, the groin injury, and he's going to miss a start, but hopefully he'll just be on the injury list for just 10 days. It was a precautionary move, and they get to add another pitcher to the roster, so you see the logic. Fairbanks gets the win in an inning and a third, and Castillo the save. So that was all good there, and they squeak out the 2 runs. They didn't score until the 8th. It was Diaz with an RBI single that ended up being the game winner, so that was good to see. Then we go ahead to Saturday. It was the Rays 4-0 over the Marlins. It was Josh Fleming getting his second straight win in his second major league start in 5 1/3. No earned runs on 3 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts. So just 3 base runners allowed. Thought maybe he could have tried to get through that inning at just 74 pitches, but it ended up working out just A-OK as they did not allow a hit the rest of the way. It was Thompson doing 2/3. Edgar Garcia got a hold, so that was good to see. And then Loop and Curtis working a couple of perfect innings, respectively. The Rays didn't get on the board until the 6th inning. It was a little bit of small ball with Diaz reaching on an infield single with 2 outs to score Perez from third base. So that was kind of nice to see. Another pitching duel, of course, it was Pablo Lopez in a losing effort going 7 innings. That was something I didn't mention about the Friday game either. It was Sixto Sanchez for the Marlins going 7 innings. So obviously the Marlins, as far as their core goes, they are really set as far as starting pitching is concerned. Not so much the bullpen, but again, Pablo Lopez, 7 innings. Really cool story for him as well. Both of his parents were doctors, and he wanted to be a doctor like them, and his dad convinced him to play baseball, which is like kind of the exact opposite of what you would imagine that conversation going. But that was cool to see his dad encourage him to do that. I guess, follow your dreams is always a good thing. And Pablo Lopez, a pretty good major league pitcher, an ERA of 2.10, again, went 7 innings in a losing effort. The Rays certainly struggled against him. 6 hits, no walks, 5 strikeouts. Some other takeaways from that. They got away with using the B bullpen. It was, again, I gave, Garcia, Luke, Curtis, which was good. Ryan Thompson 0 for 8 this year when he comes in with men on base as far as allowing them to come across the score, which is an absolutely absurd stat. I looked it up as well. One of the only pitchers in the major leagues currently, with the minimum, of course, of, a handful of, times that it's happened, that where they don't allow any runners to come across the score, and he's been very good in that department. Not sure there's anything as far as his skill set that would foretell that. I think, he's just pitched good in big spots, and that's good to see for a young guy that we didn't necessarily see being a part of this team, but that's, of course, part of the depth that everyone lauded for the Rays is, making them the World Series pick and things like that for some experts. Other takeaways, a good inning for Edgar Garcia. Of course, you can chuck that out the window now. It doesn't really matter. We know what Edgar Garcia is at this point. An offense scored mostly with small ball, so we know from all that. Another Josh Fleming win, so he looks to be cemented pretty good in this rotation at this point. We go to Sunday's 12-7 win. A pretty exciting game. Both offenses finally explode. No home runs for either side in the first 2 games of that series. 2 home runs and a 3-run first inning for the Rays. It was Joey Wendell leading the whole dang thing off with a almost nearly 400-foot homer to right. So, kind of weird to see him in the leadoff spot, but it obviously paid off. That was his only hit of the game in 6 at-bats, but obviously made it count. And then Setsugo homered to right, a 2-run shot that made it 3-0, and that set the tone for the rest of the game. In the 5th inning, Willie Adames blew it open with a grand slam to make it 9-1, and that, obviously foretold the rest of the game. And good to see them finally come through with the bases loaded, as they did not do tonight. Blake Snell, somewhat an early exit for him. He gets the win, 3-0. Only 5 innings pitched, though. 2 earned runs, 5 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Also gives up 2 home runs, throws 75 pitches. And what was curious about this, and this is the gripe that I have with Kevin Cash, but the starting pitching has been healthy relatively, so you can't really complain. That was a 12-2 game that Blake Snell exited at only 75 pitches. And if he's fully stretched out, to me, there's no excuse why you don't give him a 6th and maybe flirt about, I'm going to pitch into the 7th inning. But Kevin Cash wants to go with the bullpen, and in a 12-2 game, you don't have to go to your guys. And I think ultimately they wanted to see what now that I, talk it out loud, it makes sense. They wanted to see what they had in Anthony Bonda for real, because they were considering moving him. And of course, Bonda wets the bed. In just an inning pitched, gives up 5 earned runs on 5 hits, 3 walks, just a sole strikeout and 47 pitches. So that is not good to see at all. Just couldn't get guys out, obviously. And let the Marlins creep back into the game a little bit, but it was still a 5-run lead. Obviously, the Rays going to DFA Anthony Bonda, and they traded him right at the deadline for cash considerations to the Giants. So, they were going to waive him either way, so you get a little bit from him. Obviously, not much, but, it'll pay for, the sodas for the first couple of weeks at the stadium next year, something like that. Slegers works a couple of perfect innings. The boy has Slegers been very good. We heard Eric Neander on the telecast talk about he didn't I don't think he mentioned Slegers' name outright, although maybe he did, and then as well Sheriff worked a clean 9th. But, talking, Eric Neander was on the telecast again, as I said, and they were asking him about his approach to the trade deadline, and, they were looking at avenues, but they didn't force it. And then he made a comment as with all the injuries and guys have come up, he said that some of the guys has changed his opinion of them. So it's almost like maybe he didn't think he had much in guys like Aaron Slegers or, Ryan Thompson or John Curtis. I believe he may have mentioned Slegers and Curtis, if I'm not mistaken. And boy, has Slegers been very good. An ERA of 4.50, but it seems like every time, he comes into the game, he's putting the lights out of an opposing lineup. He's only appeared in 4 games this year, and I think the bugaboo, his first game of the year in Boston, he gave up 5 earned runs in 2 innings. But has not given up a run since then. An inning clean against the Yankees, 4 innings of perfect baseball against the Blue Jays. That's where the perfect baseball came from. And then again in the Marlins, against the Marlins, 2 perfect innings. So has not given up a single hit since that outing against Boston. So he's gone, 7 consecutive innings without giving up a hit. So that tells you everything you need to know about Aaron Slegers. And I guess that's really not talked about enough, a right-hander. I mean, I guess you can go inning by inning, but I guess it's turned into more of a bulk guy, a multiple inning reliever. He's 6'10", so obviously a big kid, and he's looked very good. I'm assuming we may see him, if he goes 2 innings on Sunday, he may not be able to give you much length tomorrow. But I would imagine if they go with an opener, it would be Slegers because of how well he's pitched against the Yankees. Although I guess it was just that one outing where he went an inning, but did look good. I think he did open for Richards in that one as well, if I'm not mistaken. And some other takeaways in there as well. Slegers and Sheriff combined for 3 perfect innings. As I said, a bullpen all set for the Yankee series, which it was, although a bullpen is relative, of course, at this point of the season. And Ryan O'Grady and Randy Arozarena made their debuts. Randy was on a flight to Miami after the game had started because they were making roster moves left and right. I guess that's how it works. And when Randy got there in the middle of the game, he ended up coming in and played left field. So did work a walk, but went 0 for 1. And then we saw him, of course, tonight lead off and look okay. I think it'll take a little while to get him settled in, but I guess I'll just talk about it briefly now. I think Randy Arozarena is such a wild card on this roster. We haven't talked about the trade deadline stuff yet, but I haven't discussed it. I don't think Jose Martinez traded to the Cubs for a couple of players to be named later, and everyone was up in flames. Oh, what do you mean we traded one of our top pitching prospects, Matthew Libator, for what has become Arozarena and 2 players to be named later? But talk around the Rays was Arozarena really was the prize in that deal, not Jose Martinez. Martinez got a couple of years left of arbitration, I believe. This was the final year of his actual contract. So, and he was only making a couple $1 million a year. So, you see where the value lies in him, but he played 4 games in the field for the Rays, and that was telling what they thought of his fielding abilities. Just is not good in that department. And the Rays are not one of those teams that are going to pay a Nelson Cruz to DH every game. They use the DH differently than most teams. It's not just a slugger that's up there every game. They give guys a half day off where they don't have to play the field or, things like that. If there's, a matchup that they like, they can get a certain guy in the lineup. There's no set DH on this roster because, as far as roster flexibility goes, an everyday DH really does not fit in that equation. That's the exact opposite of flexibility if that's all he can do is bat. And Jose Martinez is one of those players. I was surprised that he went to the Cubs because, there may be universal DH from here on out, but as far as we know, it'll be no DH in National League parks next year. And obviously Jose Martinez, who came up with the Cardinals, they were saying how bad of a fielder he was. Not sure why the Cubs would want him. Again, if it's universal DH, then they'll just have their designated hitter day in and day out, as they will this season. A guy that's really good at hitting lefties, but again, he fits a small peg. We talk about flexibility all the time, and then a guy like Jose Martinez who can only DH and only hit lefties. That doesn't give you a lot of flexibility as far as anything goes, and we don't know who the players are that they'll get in return, but 2 players to be named later. We saw in the Chris Archer trade, usually players to be named later aren't Shane Baz, but that was the PTBL in that trade, and Shane Baz now is one of the top arms starting pitching prospects in the Rays system, so you never know what it could be. But again, Arozarena, that's kind of the focus. And I think that came to the forefront when they traded Martinez, because then it goes, wait, whoa, why did we give up Libator? And then, of course, it was worked out nicely, conveniently, that Arozarena came up shortly thereafter because of the roster spot that was opened up. Literally replacing one man with the other in the trade. That's kind of funny. A guy that Dave Wheels on the radio, as compared to maybe a Carl Crawford type, had a really good spring training, will continue to develop. He's a 25-year-old out of Havana, Cuba. The Rays see a lot in him, obviously, to give up Libator, who's a first-round pick, and again, one of the top arms in the system, and still probably will end up being a very good starting pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals in a couple of years. But what the Rays are now, starting to maybe transition some of those prospects into guys that can play now, because that's where the window for this team lies. Because you're not going to have Willie Adames and Austin Meadows and Brandon Lau forever. So you need to capitalize on that for an extent. And I think Arozarena should end up being a good player. But a wild card as far as this season goes, if he can be a Carl Crawford type that has a real strong bat and can steal bases. I think Carl Crawford, stole 5 bases in a game, something crazy like that. Usually when you think of guys that steal bases for the Rays, this is not Malik Smith. It's not a singles hitter who steals 40 bases. This is a guy in a 162 game season that can legitimately be, I guess a 25 type player that can hit 25 home runs and steal 25 bases. Maybe when he gets his best, he's got pop in his bat. He's got a good eye by all indication. In the leadoff spot tonight, but can play the field well. We hope. Maybe alongside Brett Phillips in the future. We'll have to see how that shakes out. So that's all I wanted to say about that, as far, just address the Jose Martinez trade and really what it means as far as, with Arozarena and why they made the moves that they made. And now that we are kind of transitioning into that, I wanted to go over, it was a busy trade deadline, and I'll kind of go through everything one by one. I don't have a ton to say about all of them, but I know everyone doesn't follow it, so it's a good way to kind of get it all out there. The Blue Jays, we'll start with them. They were huge buyers at the deadline. They're a couple of games above 500, and they're just, I think, a game or two back of the Yankees. And what's so interesting, the way the schedule is set up, the Yankees and Blue Jays have not met this year. And if it's going to be after the series, maybe, a half a game separating them, they'll play 10 times basically in 30 days, and that will decide it. So, you pick up a starting pitcher on an expiring deal like they do when, a guy like Robbie Ray or Ross Stripling, and, seemingly you're only going to get, 5 starts out of them. Well, if 2 of them come against the Yankees and it gets you into the playoffs, that might be enough. And that's also something I wanted to throw out there as well. We assumed that 3 teams in the AL East would make it because the first 2 place teams and a couple of wild cards would make it. But the way the AL Central is going, it's the Indians and White Sox both at 21-13 and the Twins at 20-15. So 3 really good teams. So I would imagine at least one of the wild cards coming out of there. And then where it goes from there is a toss-up. So you don't really know. It may be 3 teams, and at that point, it doesn't really matter. But the Blue Jays going all in. They're 3 games above 500, as I said. They're a game and a half back of the Yankees, but again have not played each other, and that'll be really telling us. Are the Blue Jays for real? I thought they were probably a year away, but in a season where so many teams are making the playoffs, it kind of makes sense to make a move like that if they just want to kind of. I guess get a head start on the rebuild and start really contending right now. And another thing about the trade deadline, why there maybe wasn't as many moves as people thought, is in a 162 game season at the trade deadline at, I think it's July 31st instead of August 31st, if I'm not mistaken. Teams know if they're going to be buyers or sellers. Teams are out of it at that point. Right now, nobody's really out of it except for a handful of teams. And those were really the teams that dealt. I got teams like the Red Sox, and I guess the Orioles have kind of given themselves up a little bit. Teams like that were really the only sellers. So harder to come by. Obviously, if you're familiar with basic economic principles, the supply and demand does not favor buyers at the deadline because there's more teams wanting to buy and less teams wanting to sell. So again, the Blue Jays remake their starting pitching staff. They get Ross Stripling from the Dodgers for 2 players to be named later. They also pick up Robbie Ray and Taijuan Walker. I'm not familiar with Walker. I just want to take a look at his stats. He comes over from the Diamondbacks. He's 3-2 with a 3.27 ERA, so he seems to be pretty good. Just 28 years old, and you only had to give up 2 players to be named later. And if I'm not mistaken, those players do have to come from the 60-man pool, so it's a little bit easier to guess maybe who they would be, instead of the hundreds that they have in the minor league system. So, I mean, now you look at that rotation. Hyun-Jin Ryu obviously as your ace. Chase Anderson, I guess, maybe as your 2. Ross Stripling, Robbie Ray, and Taijuan Walker looks pretty darn good for the Blue Jays. Certainly glad that the Rays aren't going to have to face them again, at least as far as the regular season is concerned. The Rockies pick up Kevin Pillar from the Red Sox, so Boston was certainly selling. They dealt Mitch Moreland to the Padres and a couple of relievers to the Phillies. We'll get to that. I don't necessarily get the move. I guess Colorado is trying to just kind of shore up some holes that maybe they have. Just trying to make that playoff push. Looking at the standings in the in the NL West, they're 17-17, and they're 8 games back of first. But as far as the wild card goes, it looks like they're right in the thick of things for the wild card. So they want to make sure they can keep it that way. I believe they'd have a playoff spot if the season ended today. The Cubs pick up a couple of left-handed relievers. They pick up Arizona's Andrew Chafin. So the Diamondbacks are just, they are selling. They're out of it. They're 14-21. So they were one of the biggest sellers. And they pick up Josh Osich as well. And they also get Cameron Maben, the outfielder from Detroit, for a minor league shortstop. So it doesn't look like they had to give up too much. And they shored up some of their weaknesses. And obviously Jose Martinez from the Rays in exchange for a couple players to be named later as well. The Marlins both buying and selling as they make a couple of deals. They deal Starling Marte, they get Starling Marte from the Diamondbacks for starters Caleb Smith and Humberto Mejia. So it seems like they gave up a lot, especially Caleb Smith, who at least last year was pretty good. We look at his stats in his career. He's 15-18 with a 4.64 ERA. So I guess middle of the road starter in his second season. They deal him, and also Humberto Mejia, who we thought would face the Rays, but now you see why they were getting ready to deal him. But then they send Jonathan Villar, the switch hitter at the top of the order, to the Blue Jays, so the Blue Jays add him as well. They said Miami's trying to thread the needle as both a deadline buyer and seller, so interesting to see. The Marlins are still in the thick of things as well, in second place, tied with the Phillies in the NL East, so I guess they would have a playoff spot right now if the season were to end today. So after that sweep, after they got swept by the Rays, they won today in Citi Field in a weird one-off game against the Mets, a makeup game where they beat Jacob deGrom. So I guess a quick turnaround for the Marlins. They don't get down on themselves too much. The Rays will see them coming up soon in the next series. The Angels kept Dylan Bundy, a guy that maybe he thought would be dealt. The Oakland Athletics, who are really a contender in the American League, they pick up Mike Minor from the Texas Rangers for a couple players to be named later. We look at Mike Minor's stats for this year, and he is his career stats is 70-64 with an ERA just under 4. But I wanted to get his. I don't know. ESPN is not giving me what I want, but you get the idea. Mike Minor is certainly a household name, a lefty starter, and I guess that's kind of been a weakness for Oakland for a while now. Again, in the standings, they have a 2.5 game lead over the Houston Astros for first place at 22-12. I believe they're the second best record in the American League, and certainly would not have to face them again. Although it did go pretty well last year, if you recall the wild card game. The Padres add Clevenger in a deadline blockbuster. A guy that a lot of people thought would be dealt. The Indians have like 6 or 7 really good starters, so a 5-man rotation, you do the math, you might as well get value for some of them before their contracts expire. What they got back in return, they got a right-handed pitcher, Kyle Contrell, who right now is 2-0 in the season, a 2.60 ERA. So they get a pretty good righty reliever in the bullpen that needs a little bit of help, left fielder Josh Naylor, and catcher Austin Hedges, as well as a couple of other guys, some prospects, a shortstop, a left-handed pitcher, and another shortstop. And one of the shortstops, Naylor, should immediately slot, or I'm sorry, the 23-year-old Naylor will play in the outfield for him. And I believe the shortstop, was the guy that they anticipate to be Francisco Lindor's replacement, who I guess Cleveland would deal in the offseason. They didn't trade him at the deadline, so that's kind of hard to see. The Dodgers kind of declined on rentals. That was the story. They didn't really go all in. Guys like Josh Hader, Lance Lynn, kind of guys that maybe they would want, but they decided to pass, and they're all in with what they've got right now. Also wanted to throw this out on the monitor. With 2 minutes left, it is the Rockets and Thunder tied at 98. It's the Rockets up 3-2, so the Thunder with their back against the wall. So we'll keep our eye on that as that one goes down the stretch. Trevor Bauer ends up not getting dealt from Cincinnati. And just one thing I wanted to throw out there, and then we'll get to a 2020 sports update. We'll throw in NBA and hockey scores together. He does on his YouTube channel, or he's affiliated with it on Momentum. He does these vlogs where he takes you through being a major league player and on start day and stuff like that. Really cool. I'll definitely recommend checking that out. It's a pretty neat thing. So again, we'll head to the 2020 sports update, give you the hockey and the basketball scores, then we'll come back, wrap up some trade deadline stuff, and preview tomorrow's contest between the Rays and the Yankees. If we have any listeners and you'd like to call in, the number to do so, 877-566-1020. HBC. A couple of games in NBA action today. In Game 1, it was the Miami Heat 115-104 over the Milwaukee Bucks. Jimmy Butler leading the way with 40 points. Now with 40 seconds left in the fourth quarter, it is the Rockets and Thunder tied at 100. Houston with a 3-2 lead have the Thunder with their backs against the wall. Chris Paul and company trying to stay alive and force a Game 7. On the hockey side, of course, it was the Tampa Bay Lightning clinching their series over the Bruins 3-2. Victor Hedman with a game-winning goal in double overtime. And at the end of 2 periods, it is the Colorado Avalanche up 6-2 on the Dallas Stars. Dallas leads that series 3-1, so the Avs are going to have to win the next 3 if they have any dreams of taking that series.
Hey, sports fans! William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBCStream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCStream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 66. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 11:43, we are back on the William Haynes Show as we put a wrap on the program. Number to call, 877-566-1020. Talking a little trade deadline stuff, getting caught up on everything that happened, and we'll preview tomorrow's game against the Yankees, and we'll get out of here. Some other trades, some lower-level stuff. The Diamondbacks sent their closer, Archie Bradley, to the Reds, so they pick up the Reds do pick up a nice guy to add to the bullpen that was struggling a little bit. He joins Starling Marte and Robbie Ray as the Diamondbacks players that were dealt. at the deadline. So obviously the Diamondbacks big sellers. The Mets shore up holes with some late moves. They pick up a reliever, Miguel Castro from the Orioles, who we've seen and has looked pretty good. So maybe a guy in the bullpen that can get decent outs. In one of those doubleheader games, I think on Sunday, they blew a 7-2 lead in the ninth. It was just, I had it on, and it was just terrible to watch because, obviously we want the Yankees to lose as far as the standings go. They had catcher Robinson Chirinos, and they reunite themselves with Todd Frazier, bringing him back from the Texas Rangers, so he could not stay away long, and they didn't have to give up much to get it. The Phillies pick up another reliever from the Brewers. They pick up David Phelps from Milwaukee. That joins the package of Heath Hembree and Brandon Workman that they picked up from the Red Sox. So completely revamped the bullpen. The Phillies are at 500 and tied for second in the NL East, so they're making a push. Obviously a really good lineup, decent starting pitching, so it's shoring up their kind of weakness in the bullpen, if you will. But they're probably going to have to win a decent amount of games in the month of September if they want to make a real push at things. We talked about Robbie Ray heading over to the Blue Jays. I guess the ERA this year is 7.84, so we struggled a little bit. Yeah, 31 walks and 31 innings, so who knows maybe if that'll work out for Toronto. Mike Minor, again, is going over to the A's. Said with Clevenger. The Padres picked up a lot of people. They got the catcher Austin Nola from the Mariners and gave up a bunch of players. They get another catcher, Jason Castro from the Angels. The Rockies get Michael Givens, a reliever from the Orioles. So the Rockies added a couple of pieces. Obviously, the Cubs get Jose Martinez from the Rays from a couple of players to be named later. The Braves get starter Tommy Milone from the Orioles. That was the only move for Atlanta during the deadline, so they did not do a whole lot, did not really fix the issues, obviously with Max Fried and Mike Soroka no longer a part of the starting rotation this year, Fulte obviously being DFA'd, and Max Fried out with the pretty bad, I think, calf or Achilles injury. So all they get is Tommy Milone, and the Rays, I've seen him, obviously he's not great, 33 years old, 1-4 with an ERA of just under 4 in 6 starts. The Padres also add Mitch Moreland, the first baseman, one of the best hitters for the Red Sox. They give up some prospects. He's 34 years old, and he's hitting .328 with 8 home runs. The Padres also pick up Royals closer Trevor Rosenthal. So the Padres, obviously the biggest buyer at the deadline. They are putting all their chips in the table. The A's add a former All-Star Tommy La Stella in a really weird trade with the Angels. Weird to see the Angels make that move, but they do. Jared Dyson going to the White Sox. The Blue Jays, they acquire Tuan Walker from the Mariners, so that was one of the stars that they picked up. And obviously we talked about already Heath Hembree and Brandon Workman, a trade that was made a while ago to bring them over for the Red Sox. So obviously the biggest buyers, I would say, the Phillies adding the bullpen pieces that they do. The A's picked up a couple of big players, and obviously the Padres, Mike Clevenger, but they picked up a closer. They picked up a couple of catchers, I guess, that they saw that was something that they wanted to shore up. So definitely a different Padres team than what was a couple of days ago. Again, we look at the standings. They're in second place at 21-15, so they'll make the playoffs. ESPN has it at a 97.5%, but they are making a move to succeed in October, so they're going all in with the rebuilds. It's kind of funny to see the Padres. They did this exact thing a handful of years ago. They traded Fernando Tatis, who was only like 17 at the time, to the White Sox for James Shields, and James Shields did not pan out in San Diego. So it's funny to see that Fernando Tatis Jr. is the biggest piece of this new Padres team. They're doing the same thing, nilly wild, and pushing all the chips on the table at the deadline. It kind of comes full circle that way. Just go over the standings real quick. I'll give you the top 2 teams right now in each division. The Rays in first place. They're 3.5 up on the Yankees. In the Central, it's all tied up. The Indians and White Sox are tied for first. The Twins are just a game and a half back. In the West, it's the Athletics, 10 games above 500 at 22-12. The Astros are 2.5 games back, and then no contenders outside of that. The closest team is the Mariners at 15-22, so no wild cards out of the West. So probably it'll be a wild card out of the Central and one out of the East. So probably 3 teams will make it in the American League East: the Rays, the Yankees, and probably the Blue Jays will all make the postseason. National League, we go to the East, is really, really close. The Braves at 19-14, but they are certainly not a great team by any means. They've been doing pretty good. The Marlins and Phillies are tied at 15-15, and the Mets 5 games back at 15-20. I would assume the Nats at 12-20 are probably out of it. In the Central, the Cubs at 12-14 hold a 3-game lead over the Cardinals, and after that, no team in the division is above 500. And in the West, is the Dodgers running away with it at 26-10. They are 5 games up on the Padres. The Padres, obviously, at 21-15 will make the playoffs, and the Rockies making a decent push at 17-17, and I guess a San Francisco Giants team at 17-19, I guess, could potentially have a chance to make a run, but probably not. And the Diamondbacks, who are big sellers at 14-21, are certainly out of it at this point. So that's about it. We talked about the trade deadline. The Rays not really active at the actual deadline. The only move they really made was trading Bonda for cash considerations. The moves that they made before then, obviously Jose Martinez goes to the Cubs for a couple of players to be named later. I think that ultimately ended up being a good move, as Jose didn't really have a feature on this team, and they get like guys like Randy Arozarena up to get some time now, which I think will ultimately be a better move. Martinez wasn't doing that great for the Rays anyway, so they take the risk versus reward and get some value back in the process. While it may not be much, it is still something. We look also, Cody Reed, reliever from the Reds, has not yet appeared in a game for the Rays. We'll probably see him tomorrow. A tall, 6'5" right-handed pitcher that throws upper 90s on the fastball. Did not have great stats or an ERA or the record, but what I have collected was he was kind of mismanaged by the Reds management, things like that. And also, it looks like, I believe this has gone final now, it is the Thunder 104-100 over the Rockets. So the Chris Paul and company, he gets 28 points tonight. They force a Game 7, and that'll be really exciting. I believe that will probably be on Wednesday, you would assume, and it will be. So at 9 p.m. on Wednesday, we'll be on the air then at Game 7 between the Thunder and the Rockets. The Thunder, I believe, up 3-1, or I think it was, had a chance to put the series away, and then they blow a lead, and the Thunder have taken advantage of that window that was open for them. So a team in OKC that, people thought were just trying to tank this season, they get Chris Paul, thinking maybe just to flip him, and he ends up carrying this team to a 44-28 record, and now a forced to Game 7 against one of the better teams in the West in the Rockets. So all interesting things to play out there. We'll do that. Tomorrow's basketball games, the Celtics and Raptors Game 2, Boston up 1-0, and the Jazz and Nuggets Game 7 at 8:30. So we'll be on the air probably while that game is still going on. And as far as the hockey goes, right now it looks like the Avs are going to win. They are up 6-2 at the start of the third period, so they'll probably force a Game 6. Games tomorrow, it looks like it'll be the Islanders and Flyers. That game may be over when we're on the air. The Islanders up 3-1 and just before 10, so we'll probably be going on as that game starts. The Golden Knights and Canucks, the Golden Knights, the number 1 seed in the West, hold a 3-1 series lead, so they probably look to close that out, and they'll go to the Western Conference Finals to face what we would presume to be the Stars, but the Avalanche are trying to make a comeback. They were scoring all over the place on a former Lightning goalie, Ben Bishop, so that kind of sucks to see, because obviously Ben Bishop, a real fan favorite. If I have my schedule here, which I do, previewing tomorrow's contest at 7:05, it is an undecided for the Rays versus Masahiro Tanaka. I would imagine for the Rays, again, as I said, either Trevor Richards or, Trevor Richards behind some type of an opener. So we'll have to see as far as that goes. Again, the Rays haven't decided as far as I know just yet. But again, Masahiro Tanaka, he is 0-1 on the year with a 3.48 ERA. The Rays put it to him pretty good last time out. We look at his last start and a 7-inning game against the Braves. He went 5 innings, no earned runs on 3 hits, threw just 66 pitches, got the quick hook. Really an overmanaged game for Aaron Boone as they lose that one 2-1 as part of that doubleheader where they got swept and Garrett Cole lost the other game. In his last time out against the Rays, he does have 2 starts. His last time out, though, on the 18th of August, went only 4 innings. The Rays put up 5 earned runs on 8 hits. No walks, though, just 2 strikeouts for him, 71 pitches. So I just want to take a peek at that box score, that game. That was a 6-3 win in the series opener. I believe that was in the Bronx. Blake Snell went 5. Not that matters. We look at the lineup. Austin Meadows went 2 for 4. Kiermaier went 2 for 4. The scoring, Perez RBI single, Brandon Lau with a 3-run homer. It was, pass ball, and Meadows homered. So you would imagine more of the same as far as the lineup goes with that. I would imagine with the righty, they're going to stock the lefties in the lineup as if Austin Meadows is good to go, which we don't know. He did not play tonight. He probably would have, I guess, if everything was normal, or maybe they just wanted to get Randy Arozarena at bats. I can't tell you for sure on that front. If Austin Meadows is good to go, I would have him lead off and probably play the field. The outfield from left to right, I would go Meadows in left, Kiermaier in center, and if you want to go Renfroe in right, that's fine. They could put a Arozarena out there. They could put Margot out there. They have options. And then in the infield from left to right, Diaz, I would assume, would be missing some time. So I would go Wendell at third, Adames at shortstop, Brandon Lau at second, G-Man Choi again at first base. If Michael Perez doesn't catch, then it would be Kevin Smith, but they're both lefties, so I would make that pick, and they'll be catching Trevor Richards in some form or fashion. He's on 5 days rest, so he's got an extra day, and it could probably give them 4 innings or so. So you put that behind an opener, and you've got your 5 innings. On Wednesday, I would only imagine Morton would get you 3 or even 4 innings tops, but no more than that in his first start back. So they've got to be careful with the bullpen. It seems like everyone would be available as far as I would imagine. You look at the bullpen, Castillo could probably go on a back-to-back in a safe situation. John Curtis will be probably getting some good at-bats. Fairbanks pitched an inning tonight, but he'll be good to go. Garcia would be out. He threw 30 pitches, so he's going to be out for a couple days. Aaron Loop could go against lefties. Cody Reed, another lefty, we'll probably see. Ryan Sheriff is good. Slegers is probably good. Ryan Thompson. So everyone is available, so that's good to see. So if they can get 5 innings from Richards or behind an opener, that would be good because you only need 4 innings after that, and then they can have some guys ready to go on Wednesday as well against Morton. So that's about all we've got tonight. Went almost an hour and a half here on the program. Just wanted to thank everyone who stopped by and checked it out. We'll be back again tomorrow after the Rays-Yankees game, probably at about 10 or so. That's a 7:05 first pitch, undecided against Masi or Tanaka. Hopefully the Rays can get to Masa again. Also, the Lightning close out their series 4-1 over the Bruins. They'll advance to either the Islanders or the Flyers in the Eastern Conference Finals. So good to see the Lightning winning some playoff series. That's all good. Maybe track Aaron down and see if we can talk to him. But of course, as always, we will see you tomorrow.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM and Sports Radio 66. The Fan.
HBC.
W